Hello, welcome to Quest 4 Module 2, Paired Selection Comparison Chart. Today we're going to be working with persuasive text and poetry. I'm going to model how to complete the paired analysis by discussing the features in the column on the left. We'll discuss the topic for each selection with the description of the topic, the theme, the conflict, and the author's purpose. When we're done, we will have a comparison between persuasive text and poetry. Let's take a look at the first text, which is a poem entitled Trying to Name What Doesn't Change. Trying to Name What Doesn't Change by Naomi Shihab Nye. Rosalva says the only thing that doesn't change is train tracks. She's sure of it. The train changes, or the weeds that grow up spidery by the side, but not the tracks. I've watched one for 3 years, she says, and it doesn't curve, doesn't break, doesn't grow. Peter isn't sure. He saw an abandoned track near Sabinas, Mexico, and says a track without a train is a changed track. The metal wasn't shiny anymore. The wood was split, and some of the ties were gone. Every Tuesday on Morales Street, butchers crack the necks of 100 hens. The widow in the tilted house spices her soup with cinnamon. Ask her what doesn't change. Stars explode. The rose curls up as if there is fire in the petals. The cat who knew me is buried under the bush. The train whistle still wails its ancient sound, but when it goes away, shrinking back from the walls of the brain, it takes something different with it every time. Okay, so the topic of the poem is change. The topic is change, and the emphasis is on identifying something that resists change. Let's take a look at the theme. One theme that we can identify from the poem is change is always occurring, even when it's minute. Let's take a look at the conflict. One conflict is identifying change as problematic when it's small or when it takes place over a long period of time because it's almost unnoticeable or unnoticeable to some. Let's look finally at the author's purpose before moving to our second text. The author wants the audience to consider the idea of ongoing change, especially that which goes unnoticed. Let's take a look at our second text, which is a persuasive article entitled Trying to Remember. Trying to Remember by Roger Cohen. Another year has come, and once again I am trying to remember how things were long ago. Before apps, when there were attention spans. Before 6-star hotels, when we always had Paris. Before hedge fund honchos, when love was all you needed. I think we got by just the same. Before cinching, when pen met paper. Before screaming screens and taxis, when there were lulls. Before virtual community. Before cut and paste to the tap of my Olivetti and the disorder of carbon-stained fingers and the thrill of the class struggle. Before information overload, when there was mystery. Before carbon footprints, in the heretofore before CCTV, in invisibility. Before hot yoga, in the galaxy of strangeness. My impression, unless I'm wrong, is that we made the most of our lot. Before January cherries, when fruit had seasons. Before global avocado, when you were told to eat up. Before New World wine, when wine was tannic and acidic. Before plate-sized cookies, when greed was contained. Before fusion in scattered division. Before the obesity onslaught, in our ordinariness. Before efficiency took over. Before remorseless software in our afternoon dazes. Could we have gotten by all the same? Memory is fading, and I may be wrong, but before celebrities, when there were starlets, before Google Maps, when our compasses were internal, before virtual flirtation, when legs touched under tables, we felt we managed pretty well. Was it all an illusion? Before identity theft, when nobody could steal you, before global positioning systems, when we were lost, before 24/7 alerts by text and email, when there was idleness. Before e-readers, when pages frayed, we did seem to survive. Before Uber, when a cab was a cab. Before FaceTime and tweets, when there was time. Before speed cameras, when you could speed. We managed all right. Before homogenization, when there was tobacco smoke. Before cuisine with foam, when gravy was lumpy. Before aggregation, when there was copyright. Before digital, when there was vinyl. Before made in China, when there was mayo. Before search engine optimization, when above the fold was what mattered. Before sanitization, when there was grime, we had the impression we were getting by. Before social media, when we were social. Before trending on Google, when we zoned out. Before adjustable appointments, when you stuck to the plan. Before content, when we spun yarns. Before non-state actors, when states were the threat. I believe we did get by all the same. Before organic, when an apple was an apple. Before online banking, when you knew your branch manager. Before global warming, when we feared nuclear winters. Before save the planet, when the earth seemed boundless. Before the greens, when we faced the reds. It seemed we did somehow manage to eke out a life. Or did we? Before iPhones and search, in the era of print. Before portable devices, when there was ink. Before the Weather Channel, when random weather got weathered. Before movies on demand, when movies were demanding. Before global brands, in the time of the samizdat. Before curved shower curtain rods, when they were straight. Did we really and honestly live somehow? I grow uncertain. We must have been much worse off. We lived in a different world. The world leans in and moves forward. Lives get longer. Poverty is reduced. Abuses are checked. Nostalgia is the refuge of the deluded. Yet I wonder. Before dystopia, when utopia beckoned. Before the new prohibition, when lunches were liquid. Before Beyonce, when we dug the dead. Before joined the conversation. When things were disjointed, before gross inequality and the masters of the universe, when we resembled each other more, before reality shows, in the dullness of the real, I believe we got by just the same. Before algorithms, when there was socialism, before YouTube, when there was you and me, before high-tech headphones in the era of distance, we knew much less but felt much more. Before I forget, while there is time, for the years pass and recall grows weaker, before the wiring accelerates, while I can pause, let me summon it back, that fragment from somewhere learned long ago, that phrase that goes, the bougie cannot exist without constantly revolutionizing the instruments of production, and therefore the relations of production, and with them the whole relations of society. That was Karl Marx in the 19th century, before Marxists became Bolsheviks, and fascism arose, and doublethink too, and humanity succumbed to the 20th century bloodbath. And if in that century, in that distant and regrettable time, when we listened to the tides and the world was wider, before the tremendous technological leap, in the time of mist and drabness and farawayness and dreams, if back then, without passwords or WhatsApp groups, we managed just the same, even in black and white, how strange to think we had to change the whole relations of society. Let's go back to our chart and complete the section for our persuasive piece. The topic in the article, Trying to Remember, the theme of the piece is while technological advancements make lives busier, they fail to make lives more fulfilling. Let's look at the conflict and the author's purpose. Technology is seen as life-altering, but the changes are viewed as disruptive rather than deemed as positive. That's the major conflict in the article. Next, for author's purpose, the author wants the audience to reflect on the impact technology has made on relationships and experiences. and agree with him that life was good without its interruption. Now you're ready to complete your comparison charts for your selected pieces. Thank you and good luck!